Like we started off last 2 weeks about the discussions regarding Igbo leadership. We'll keep interrogating this matter as in order for us to really know what exactly where we are in terms of leadership in the past 10 years, where we are now, and where we would love to be in another 5 to 10 years. We have with us someone, a guest who would help us talk about Igbo leadership, as the case may be, whether it's political, traditional, or even family leadership. We have Mr. Bennett Chaba. Good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, Charles, and good morning, Chamadinda.
Good
I'm
morning.
really delighted to be in your studio this morning.
All right. I know I spoke to you on the phone about the demise of Ifanyoba, who
You did.
we are still really mourning. It's still a shock, really, given the situations and the manner in which it happened. Have you visited the family?
No, because the family, since it happened, have been in London. But the wife came back, I think, 3 days ago or so, 4 days ago, and is in Abuja. I'm stuck in Enugu now, and you know, with the economy, with the way things are going in Nigeria, you just don't get up and rush to Abuja just to go and see somebody that you can see in the village. So I'll wait for her to come back to the village to pay that visit. But it's been a shock still, because it's difficult to think of Ifeanyi in the past, Senator Ifeanyi in the past tense. He was a bulldozer. He was a great mobilizer of our people. He understood the grassroots and was able to relate very well with the downtrodden, more than he did with the elite amongst us. So he's been, badly missed at various levels, but missed mostly by those who looked up to him as a greater mentor than others may have done, and who actually benefited from his benevolence, because he did quite a lot of charitable stuff for those of us from Nnewi and Anambra South senatorial zone. So he will be missed sorely. But you see, life goes on. Life goes on. He came like a meteorite, did his job, finished it in good time, and was called back home by our Creator. So, we're not here to question God. We just pray that his soul continues to rest in peace, and our good Lord is able to get him a wonderful room in one of his many mansions in heaven.
Right.
Yes, away from that a bit, we're talking about the Igbo nation in search of leadership. And first off, you're wearing Isiago, if I'm correct. Does it have anything, first off, to do with the Igbos or something?
Yes. You see, if any attire is used to recognize the Igbo man, when you see him anywhere in the world, is the Isiago. Don't ask me the origin of it. I sort of grew up knowing this. My father had various versions of it. The one I'm wearing is one of the many versions I've worn in the last 2 weeks. So yes, I'm dressed traditionally like an Igbo man, like a titled man, a chief from Nnewi, Ifenia Nnewi, a chief from the Igbo community. Is a
Okay.
So whenever I have to deal with issues regarding the Igbo nation, I recoil to my traditional persona. If I'm talking about something else, you might see me wearing a suit and a bow tie and drinking tea. But this, we're here to talk about the leadership vacuum in
And
the Igbo
speaking
land,
of
in the Igbo
leadership,
nation. Yeah.
frankly, especially as it concerns Ifeanyi, but a few things that you mentioned that are quite engaging. What are those qualities that he had that you think today's Igbo leaders don't have? Because I understand that he has this massive followership from his senatorial zone. He won different political parties. Are there specific qualities that he possessed that today's Igbo leaders must learn from?
Okay, we have to be very careful in trying to elevate anybody to sainthood because they are no more. When somebody dies, usually you tend to look at the good side of their life and what they did right and all of that. So we'll concentrate on the right good things he did and not the maybe not so good ones. Because he was a human being, after all. He was never perfect. Nor am I, nor anyone that I know. So, but lessons to learn from his life, of course. He helped a lot of people. Ifeanyi, Senator Ifeanyi was somebody who took delight in getting credit for taking people from A to where they never expected at point B. He enjoyed that. He did it, and he particularly wanted to do it for those who could never dream of those accomplishments. I'll give you one example. A lot of our people in Anambra South, and perhaps elsewhere in Anambra State, mostly, majorly, had the opportunity to travel abroad that they could never have dreamt because of their backgrounds, could never have dreamt of sort of achieving in their lifetimes. When he took people to Moscow to watch the Olympic Games years gone by, he took people to England to watch football, even to Brazil. He invested a lot in the area of sport, encouraged a lot of young people to, sort of see that as a potential earner and as a way of empowering themselves. He did quite a lot. He gave out quite a lot of empowerment materials, helped a lot of people to start small-scale businesses. At that level, yes, he excelled. So our leaders, what lesson do we need to learn? We need to understand that leadership is not about you showing that you're better than the rest. He never did that. That leadership is about who you're able to lift up, not who you're able to suppress with your power. Ifeanyi was able to show that he could lift people up, especially those that never envisaged they could be lifted up, and he knew how to identify them. And of course, they were so loyal to him, and that was why he kept winning. It didn't matter which party he was contesting under. It didn't matter. He could go to the most unpopular party and win, because people were not voting for the parties; they were voting for him. And that's one lesson to learn. And having said this, I also have to tell you about politics in Nigeria, that he understood it very well, that there is no ideology between the political parties. These parties do not believe in anything at all. They don't have any vision. All they want is that it's just a party is a platform from which to grab power. Ifeanyi understood that. But for me, what is important is not the name of the political party, the name of the vehicle, but the driver, the candidate. You're voting for the candidate, and we keep forgetting this, and not the political party. PDP will never run any government. It is Peter Mba, for instance, in Enugu that will run the government of Enugu State, not PDP. At the federal level, it's not a PC running the federal government. It is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, GCFR, running the federal government. So until we begin to understand that when you vote, you are voting for the individual and not the political party. He understood this, so that's one lesson to learn.
Okay, so talking about the Igbo nation in particular, what has been the historical role of leadership in the Igbo nation, and how has this evolved over time?
You understand that when you think of the foremost Igbo leader, the name Nnamdi Azikiwe comes to mind. Zik was able to lead the Igbo nation in his era, lead Nigeria in his era. But when you concentrate on the eastern region, or the southeast, or whatever the Igbo nation is today, which goes beyond the 5 states of the southeast, recall that we had the greatest leader, as far as I'm concerned, Africa ever saw, Dr. Michael Obara, who led from the eastern region from here, and I keep saying from 1960, as at 1964, just 4 years, he was able to turn the economy of the eastern region, mostly the Igbo people, because the eastern region, you have the Efiks, you have the Bibios, you have the Ikweres and all the other tribes. Well, the Ikweres are Igbos, actually. But Obara was able to use agriculture, for instance, industrialization, to take our economy from where it was in 1960 to being one of the fastest growing economies of the world within 4 years. And if you think that this was rated as at 1964, that Obara had been in office for just 4 years then, it was the coup that removed him of 1966, unfortunately. And if you think that those 4 years he spent and was able to achieve this, it's the same 4-year tenure that we have governors and presidents in Nigeria spending without much to show for it. It shows you that we have had an excellent leader in the past. He's not been the only one. Since him, we've had other great ones. I mean, we've had other leaders. Ojukwu, for instance, the late great Ikemba, was a great leader of our people. So we never really lacked great leaders. But what we're discussing and why I'm probably here in this studio this morning is that we're fast running out of great leaders. We've lost far too many people in the last few months. We've lost Iwanyanwu, we've lost Oboneaonu, we've talked about Ifeanyi. So of course, at his level, you could call him one of our leaders of the Igbo nation. And many of them like the Ajulu Zodike, just to name but a few that come to mind. We talked about Iwanyanwu, I don't know if I mentioned him earlier. So you find that we have not lacked, even as they are gone, we still have leaders around. I'm not here to mention names. It's not right to begin to say, who am I to begin to tell the Igbos who their leaders are. But what I'm saying is that we've never lacked great leadership. But what we need to do, and if we're talking about Ohaneze and Igbo, the apex organization of the Igbo nation, we should make sure that we stop electing very old leaders. And I say use the word very old advisedly, because I pray that I'm old. I pray that I get to 80 and plus. My mother is 81 now, so I pray that I live up to that age and beyond. But we need to, when you're talking about people leading the Igbo nation, you have to get younger men or women who still have the energy in them to be able to drive the agenda of the Igbo nation. So there's no point in appointing an 80-year-old man as President General Ohaneze Ndigbo when you have people from the ages of 65 to 75 who have similar experience, similar stature, similar, even better worldview to choose from. So I'm advocating that we go for a generational shift and look one generation down or one decade down instead of going for the 80 plus, who should be sort of enjoying their retirement. Come down a bit to 65 to 75. I don't qualify, by the way, obviously, within that scheme. So that's what I'm advocating. Yeah.
Do you think it was lack of leadership in Igbo nation was what caused the emergence of somebody like Nnamdi Kanu?
I was just waiting to see how long it would take us to get to IPOB. Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we need more selfless leadership at the very top. That's where the yes is coming from. But no, because the Igbos are Republicans by nature. Igbo Nweze, from time he has always been like that. Even when Ikemba was around, not all the Igbos followed him. He had sort of enormous opposition within our people. But yet we revered him as our leader in his time. So you'll always have elements of the younger ones who will say, we don't agree. Okay, who want it done faster. When you're young, you're bursting with energy. You want things done yesterday, not even today, not to talk of tomorrow. So no, those younger hotheads will always be around. With the right vision. I mean, Nnamdi has a lot of followership, and you can't take it away from him, whoever you are. He has the right language that you cannot take away from him. He says the things that resonate with our people. You can't take it away from him. So we need a leadership that will understand the message that he's given to the younger ones and run with that message. I mean, I'm talking about people not who will copy and paste, but people who will understand that and feel that, okay, and be able to see that our people are frustrated, our people are tired, our people are hungry, our people are angry, and deal with it in a very calm manner and not in a hot-headed way. Because that's what we say in Igbo land. So I understand where IPOB, the leadership and the followership are coming from, and that must resonate at the very top of the Igbo leadership, at the apex of our leadership, Ohaneze Ndigbo and others. And I was actually very happy that before his death, Iwanyanwu made serious efforts at ensuring that Nnamdi Kanu was released because it's no longer legal as far as I'm concerned now. It's all political now. And if it is political, he has a good team of lawyers, sort of acting on his behalf. But if it is political, then we need political will to solve it, and that's where the big hitters, big people should come out and be identified with him and speak openly. And I'm happy our leaders are doing that now.
The 5 Igbo Southeast governors came out the other day and stated clearly that they wanted him released. And up until this moment, it does not look, the body language of the president doesn't look like it's going to be released anytime soon. There has been advocacy for him to be released, even with the court's judgment that even the president refused to really heed to. Then you wonder whether there is something more that we don't know that is happening and the reasons why he's been held.
Okay. I think we have to be very fair to the president.
Okay.
That he does not control the courts. Okay, let's bear that in mind. I mean, he doesn't issue instructions or diktats. This is not a military dictatorship, it's a democracy. So when we are saying we want to apply political pressure, we're saying it advisedly, we're saying it knowing the rules of the game, the rule of law prevailing in a democracy. So we have to be very careful about that. I cannot come on air and begin to say the president is not doing enough or not doing what he should do. Because the moment you're doing that, you're foreclosing his, using him in quotes to solve the problem, okay? Also, you and I can sit here and postulate about why, as far as you say, his body language is not showing what you want to see. You don't know the information available to him. You don't know the pressures he's under. You don't know his modus of trying to solve this problem. All I can say is that I know that he has heard from the highest authority in Igbo land. He has heard from our governors, the Southeast governors. He has heard from our National Assembly members, all saying the same thing. Release our son to us, and we guarantee that there's not going to be any breakdown of law and order. And let's give it time, because like I said, you and I may want some of these things sorted yesterday, but it might, in the long run, be better that things are sorted with a calm head, or a calmer head.
You would recall that most Igbo leaders that rose to power in the then days, made some impact. You still hear their names even when they are not alive. But most of the Igbo leaders now, even when they're not in power, you no longer hear their name, most of them. What is the difference between the Igbo leaders then and the Igbo leaders now?
Okay, different era, different challenges, a different country. It was easier post-independence to shine. The polity was stable, expectation was high, the country was not in turmoil. Indeed, the way Nigeria was progressing in the 60s, one would have thought that by now we would have been one of the superpowers of the world. But like I said, unfortunately, the younger hot-headed ones in the military scuppered all of that. I am not here to pass judgment on them because when this was happening, I was a toddler. I don't know what they saw. I can only go by what my parents told me, what I read in books, what other teachers taught us. They don't even teach history anymore. So Nigeria of today is not the same as Nigeria of then. And don't forget that even since then, we've had many military interventions. And with each intervention comes a retrogression. So it is no longer as easy as it was to excel now than it was then. Because also remember that it was after that coup, when Ironsi took over, that you had the unification decree that was supposed to help sort of hold the nation together, where the shot was going to be largely called from the center. Then it was Lagos, okay? Now it's Abuja. So you find that even the constitution, that's why people are angling and shouting about a new constitution, restructuring. You find that even the constitution we have today, the 1999 constitution as amended, has made it very difficult, tied the hands of these governors, okay? That there are things they cannot do. For example, the Southeast is ravaged by insecurity. who do we blame? Our governors. Because they are supposed to be the chief security officers of the states. And they are the ones, sort of taking security votes from, sort of from the budget every month, okay, in order to enforce, deal with security or insecurity challenges. But you can only blame them so much because they are not in control of the levers of security in their state. They are not in control of the military, they are not in control of DSS, they are not in control of the police. If you're not in control of these guys and they're being controlled from Abuja, there's only so much you can do because these are the people you're supposed to be using to enforce security in your states. So I would say, Jomo, I would say that it probably was easier running things in the past than it is now today for them. And, okay, we've had a judgment of the Supreme Court a few weeks ago saying that local government autonomy must be enforced. Have local government elections everywhere and give them their monies directly. Okay, that's all part of seeing that Nigeria of tomorrow will work better than has worked in the last few years. Because the moment you do that, even a local government chairman will now be responsible for security in his state, in his local government or her local government, in charge of refuse collection, some infrastructure, all that kind of thing, the local schools and that. So leadership and the dividends of it usually will be best felt at the commonest level, that is the grassroots level, the local government level. And if you don't have your leadership at that level being responsible for delivering those dividends, you cannot blame them. You cannot even get the best. So we are hoping that tomorrow will be better than today. That's where we're headed. Why are we not having leaders that were shouting their names today instead of the ones of the past? Because it's never, at no era is always great at the time. Remember in the year 2014, 2015, all Nigerians, most Nigerians were shouting anybody but Jonathan. Everybody hated President Jonathan. Recall? I think we're all sort of old enough to remember that. What then happened? What happened to Nigeria happened. And Jonathan's era is now being looked back at nostalgically. Tomorrow, when Buhari was there, people were saying, oh, let this man go. Today, some people were shouting, oh, boo boo, uncle boo boo, we miss you. Okay? Don't put it past any of us that in years to come, Tinubu may end up being one of the heroes of Nigeria. Today, you can't see it. I can't see it because he's only been in office for just a year plus. But by the time he's done and we've gone through all of this heartache, this pain, you may find that in 10 years' time, we'll look back and say, this was the period that changed Nigeria. After all, the reforms that we're facing today, giving us all this pain today, these reforms are aimed at moving the country from where we are to where we should be. So we may bear the pain, complain about it, scream about it, but in years to come, be thankful that we found ourselves in this mess as of today. I don't know. Time will tell.
Wow, interesting. How much of the aftermath of the war do you think affected Igbo leadership generally?
The Igbo nation was completely, wholly affected by the aftermath of the war. Not just leadership. I mean, don't forget that leadership comes from amongst us. So the leadership is just a reflection of who we are, the populace, who we are. Now, remember that during that war, we were all forced to head back to our small enclave in the eastern region. Let me not say this southeast, because some of us, sort of live and come from Delta, some of us from rivers, and even we have some Igbos in Akwa Ibom and Cross River and all that. Now, so we were forced to come back, and a lot of people came back and found that they had no homes to come back to. That's why if you go to any town in Igbo land today, I just came back from Enugu Ezike 3 days ago, and I was amazed as to how developed the place was. I was really very happy to see what I saw there. First time of going to that part of Enugu State, okay? So now you find that when the Igbo man makes money, the first house he builds is not in the township. He goes to his village to build a house, okay? Also Chubagi, if we're big okay? So that was one impact of the Civil War. After the war, we all had 20 pounds. The ones that had sort of monies in the bank, my parents had 20 pounds. Every Igbo person. Didn't matter how many millions you had 20 pounds, okay? Didn't even matter which property you had in River State in Port Harcourt, abandoned property. We lost it all, so we had to start afresh. The problem with that was that we recovered very quickly because of the nature of the Igbo man. But the problem was that with that, for me, as far as I'm concerned, is that money has been and has become our second god. If I'm in your studio this morning, you're not looking at Ben Itiaba, what I'm saying, what's coming out of my head, what I have here. What's going through your mind is, which vehicle have I come to this place with? How many mobile policemen following me around? You know? So we've misplaced our priorities. The things that should be important are no longer important to the Igbo man, but money. Odogu. If it's a wine, that's Odogu. That's not very nauseating to somebody like me. So, and when you have our leaders are selected from the rich, the novel rich, because they are the ones that have the money to buy their way to the top. That should not happen. The moment we begin to de-emphasize people's bank balances and wallets and how generous they've been, and they've given this largesse on that to that, influence that to buy power, to buy votes, the better for us. Let us go back to an era when we found Zik because he could lead us. Zik didn't have money. It was my great uncle, Salu Odumegwu Ojukwu, Ikemba's father, Africa's first billionaire, that financed and funded Zik's politics. Even when Zik had issues and a commission was set up by the colonial masters, it was the same Ojukwu, Salu Odumegwu Ojukwu, knighted by the Queen. Ojukwu, whose Rolls Royce the Queen used when she came to Nigeria in 1956. Driven by my uncle too. Abiofo was the driver that drove the Queen, who was driving Ojukwu then. It was his money that ensured that Zik did not go down, because they wanted to deal with Zik. Not that he did anything particularly wrong. Emai Okpara was not chosen by Zik because he bribed Zik. He gave Zik money to buy his way to the premiership of the Eastern region. He was chosen by Zik, mentored by Zik, because Zik saw what he had up here, saw the energy around him, the charisma around him. And by the way, if you looked at Emai Okpara, you wouldn't even believe he was going to be a successful leader, because he looked like a football round figure. Okay? Not the lanky, tall Zik that people knew. Emai came and did what will take maybe another 100 years to find another Igbo leader to achieve. So, the leadership, what is happening now, we've gone from selecting the right leaders to selecting the wrong ones because of their bank balances. That's what I was saying. And we must stop that nonsense.
So, what role do you think that traditional rulers, play in, or what influence do they have on the governance, Igbo nation governance and decision making in Igbo communities?
You see, the traditional rulers are the ones who deal with the people. They are the ones who understand their people. It is the traditional rulers who know the right people to deal with in every community and the wrong ones not to touch in every community. So, I believe that our governors are not actually using the traditional institution as well as they ought to be used. You find that everything is politicized. If you're not dancing to the tune of the governor of the day, you may be removed from office, from the stool, as a traditional ruler. So everybody is scared. Nobody wants to hurt the governor of the day. So you find that everything is political. But the traditional institutions must be respected if you want to get things right. These are different rules. Okay, they are not, sort of a distraction to what the normal elected leaders should be doing. So they should be left alone to thrive and be looked after the right way. But you also find that he who pays the piper dictates the tune, because the governors are the ones paying them. They are forcing them to do their bidding. So everything is politicized. The right thing to say about the traditional institutions is that they are the ones that know where the bodies are buried locally and must be used the right way. Any altruistic leader, selfless leader who wants to achieve, and that's what we lack is selfless leadership. Just look at it at every level, even here at Signature TV. If you have a selfless leader, this place will thrive. If you have somebody who wants to be like Donald Trump, everything is about him, a narcissist, nobody wants to know. The turnover of staff will be too high, and nobody will be motivated. It doesn't matter how much you pay people. So we need selfless leaders, pure and simple. And you don't get selfless leaders by choosing people who are able to buy their way to power.
Right. I mean, it's quite interesting how you have examined this trajectory in terms of Igbo leadership and how we have dovetailed into money bags. Is it peculiar to Igbo nation? Because we've also seen this play out in the past, even across board, across all traditional nations in Nigeria. It's the highest bidder that takes it. You've said that we must demystify that. Is that even possible in a country that has over 133 million, multidimensionally poor?
Okay, everything in life will seem impossible until someone does it. Then you know it's possible. In Anambra State, for instance, that I come from, nobody knew that an independent candidate, almost an independent candidate, because to fight an election you need a political party. But in the year 2003, a young businessman decided enough was enough in Anambra and chose a teacher, an educationist, as his running mate, my mother. And they campaigned in Anambra. Against all odds, the people voted for them. The powers that be said no, announced whatever they wanted to announce. It took 3 years, they insisted and got it. Within 6 months, impeachment came. That same deputy stepped in, held forth for just 3 months, 3 wonderful months in Anambra. And of course, you expect me to say wonderful months. And handed power back to the person that was voted for. Before that, nobody would have thought it would be possible for this to happen in any state in Nigeria. It is not only in Igbo land that money plays a major factor in politics. Don't get me wrong. All over the world, money is a major determinant of who wins elections. Even in the States now. US elections, presidential elections, the process is going on now. And you've seen that every week they will publish the major candidates, how much they have raised. But you know what's different? That is not how much they have, but how much they were able to raise from amongst the electorate who will vote for them. If you use, that's the difference. If you use your money to buy power, you owe the people nothing. But if the people contribute that money for you to go and get it done, because you need money to get it done, you need money for advertising, you need money for logistics, you need money for so many things in politics, the right things. If you get that money the right way, spend it the right way, you'll get the right leadership. So it's not about, the money is not the problem, but how you get the money was what the issue is. If you look, let's even look at Nigeria. You talked about Nigeria. Check other zones, geopolitical zones. The southwest, the south, south. It's only in Nigeria here, south. I've never had south anywhere else in the world. South, the north central, northwest, and northeast. There's the rest of the zones. You find that it's the same story playing out. But you know why that happened? I think when they started, you may have been I don't know if you were in primary school. So when the military, when they were experimenting, I'm sorry, I'm not being patronizing you, sorry, don't feel bad about what I said. When the military were trying to experiment, about this current dispensation, democracy, Babangida was there. It was always a case of stop, start, disqualify. So they messed up the whole process. Abiola will win, they'll say, no, we won't give it to him, we don't like him, they start again. So when eventually in 1998, Absalam Abubakar decided that, yes, time was now to do the right thing, nobody, no credible politician believed they were serious. Or most credible didn't believe they were serious. So it was just those who decided to gamble that did that in 1999. And you know what? They occupied the space and they have not left the space till today. So that's why things are in a mess. Okay, it will take time to get the right leadership. but it may happen faster than you and I believe. But accidentally, it may happen.
Okay, so following the trail of the Igbo nation, how can we stop this uncouth act, going on in the leadership? You did mention that, then you had leaders that were selfless. And the fact that, like you mentioned, governors now use most of the traditional rulers, like, I don't want to use the word puppet, but for lack of a better word, just as tools, right? How can this stop? What can the Igbo man do, or, yes, extending it to Nigerians, do differently to achieve a better result for the nation?
Have selfless leaders. Let me say this to you. You know, all the problems, the ills we're facing today, you can pin down to one reason: terrible leadership, bad leadership. But you see, because if we had great leadership, it would have been solved. But I also managed to demonstrate to you that the leadership we're complaining about, these leaders are selected from amongst us, so they reflect who we are. Let me tell you what is worse than bad leaders of today: bad followers. You and I, all of us. Because if the masses are not prepared to collect stipends during elections, if we say, hey, enough is enough, give us the money, we'll take it, but we'll vote the right way. The moment we begin to do that, you'll find that the idea of giving money to buy votes will stop. I know the next thing you say, you probably ask me is, what if the masses say no? And then INEC and judiciary say yes. Once the masses are resolved in saying no, INEC, judiciary, these are not ghosts. You know who they are. They won't do it. They won't step out of line. They won't dare do that. These things are done because the perpetrators know that they can do it and get away with it. The moment you know that you can do it, but you cannot get away with it, you will not do it.
Right. For the first time since 1999, an Igbo man emerged that has this national appeal, so to speak, and he's from the Igbo extraction. And because of that, there was this huge followership he has, and even up until now, he still enjoys that followership. What do you think caused that, and how do you think the Igbo nation is harnessing this beauty under this democratic dispensation to our own advantage?
Okay. Quite frankly, what I want to see in Nigeria is good leadership. I don't care if that leader is from Sokoto, from Maiduguri, from Abeokuta, or from Yenagoa. Ben Etiaba, I don't care. I just want great leadership. You have just demonstrated what happened a few months ago, where there were major candidates and a huge, beyond expectation, proportion of Nigerians decided of Mr. ABC. This is the person we want. I don't know what will happen at the next election. I don't know which parties will be contested. I don't know which candidates will emerge. But at the right time, when those candidates emerge and the parties present their candidates, Nigerians once again will take a decision as to which way to go. Okay? I was very impressed and surprised by the phenomenon you described. And I'm sure that the candidate you were trying to describe was also personally surprised about what happened to him.
Absolutely.
He is a hostage to that movement now. Even if he wants to run away from it, he can't. So that's the point there. But you see, what we want to see is a Nigeria that works. You know, if you have a Nigeria that works, go to the advanced democracies of the world. Nobody cares. Keir Starmer is the new prime minister in Britain. Most British citizens are not aware of where he was born, where he's from. They don't care, quite frankly. In fact, it's getting to a stage where even Muslims are winning elections in Britain. They don't care because they are only voting for what will affect their lives positively. So, I don't believe in tribal politics. If I tell you, quite frankly, that I want an Igbo man to be the next president of Nigeria, that's not my passion. But if an Igbo man is the best, I believe in meritocracy. He should win that election. And must be declared.
Many people think that we are marginalized. The Igbo nation is marginalized, and so, I mean, even with the fielding of candidates, the candidates across boards, some would say haven't really fielded their best, though. So why can't we, you know, in the true sense of it, get somebody who can, you know, run the presidency? And
okay, you don't win any election on emotion. You don't win it. It's not gifted. Leadership is not something that is dashed to you, even if you're the best. Let's not get that wrong. I am somebody who honestly believes that Igbo man and woman is marginalized. I believe that it is not right to be wasting our time, our precious time this morning or any other time going forward, discussing that marginalization, because it won't change anything. I always know and think that the right thing is to do that which is within our power, our gift, solve the problems that God has already equipped us, given us all the facilities, all the know-how to solve, and not continue complaining. We have not used the best of what is available, tools that we have available to solve our own problems. We cannot continue waiting for others to come and solve it for us.
right.
If you're waiting forever for Abuja to come and solve your marginalization, you're wasting your time. Abuja is not telling Peter about what to do in Enugu, or Soludo what to do in Oka, Mwifuru what to do in Abakaliki, Hope Uzodinma in Imo, and Alex Oti in Abia. Let us come together, okay, integrate our policies, work together to solve the problems of the Southeast. That's what I say. Enough of this cry of marginalization. It's getting us nowhere.
Okay, so by your thinking, do you also think that the Igbo leadership hasn't done enough in terms of reaching out to other regions to be able to actually aspire to that position of the presidency?
It's not that. I'm not saying that at all. The people who are getting it are not getting it because they've reached out to you. That's not my headache. All I'm saying is that if we're being told that we cannot occupy that seat at the center, if we're being told that, for instance, we have no reason to be a part of any protest when people are protesting that things are going wrong in Nigeria. That's why I'm so happy that no Igbo man or woman took part in the current or just finished protest. I'm so happy about it. Okay, if you say we're not good enough, go sort out your problems. But I know that if we are able to concentrate on the states of the Igbo nation and showcase the best leadership in those states and use the resources available to us, both mineral, human capacity, leadership skills, and all of that. We have all these in abundance. I mean, come on, in 3 years during the Civil War, we produced everything we needed. Everything we needed. I mentioned that the Jukus were the same family. He came back to me when he was alive. Then in August of 1996, in England, in London, that during the 3 years of the Civil War, we produced every single thing we needed, except an aircraft. And he told me that we tried to produce an aircraft, but time didn't allow us to finish that. So if we could do that during wartime, why can't we develop the Southeast and plus in peacetime? I can't understand it. I'm not worried about reaching out to other regions. Let us get our region tight, get our region working. Then we can now extend it to other regions. That's
Okay,
me.
so one would ask, what role should women and other groups, if you like, call them marginalized groups, play in leadership of the Igbo nation or of the
Thank you.
nation?
Thank you. You know, we're now talking about having the capacity to move our people from where we are to where we should be. And you're talking about marginalization. Don't you even think in the Southeast, because there's no end to marginalization, don't you think even in the Southeast that we have marginalized the women? So we can talk about that as a separate topic. I'm happy she brought it up. I happen to be the son of the first female governor in Nigeria and the only female governor in Nigeria till date. How come, since she was in that office and everybody saw that, you know, the Anambra State did not cave in, collapse, how come we have not produced more female governors in Nigeria? Have you thought about that? And we're talking about marginalization. We are marginalizing the Southeast. How come we're marginalizing the women? Why, if we have failed to get the leadership right in the Southeast, we men, all of us men, you and I and others, maybe it is time to try the women and get the leadership that we deserve. I can say it anywhere and I owe nobody any apology. If you look at the election in America now, they're saying, oh, America is not quite ready for a female president. I look at them and I laugh. Some people, even the white Caucasians are saying that. I look at them and I laugh. I pray that a woman, a black woman at that, defeats the symbol of white privilege in America, Donald Trump. That's my biggest prayer. That is going to shatter a great glass ceiling. In fact, I grew up in England. And in my time in England and since, we've had many British prime ministers. From the time I arrived in England and Margaret Thatcher was the first British prime minister till today, they've had many female prime ministers. There is no prime minister in Britain, and I ask anybody to challenge me on this, who has done half of or showcased half of the leadership that Margaret Thatcher gave Britain. She was the one that pulled Britain out of being known as the sick man of Europe to being known as Great Britain. I've spoken about this many times on many of my speaking engagements. So, you're preaching to the converted. You know, you don't need to sort of convince me as to why women should lead. I understand that very well. And that's probably what we need. Leadership by women. Because we have failed.
All right. Going forward, we just have 1 minute. What are the ways you could say we could nurture leaders in the Southeast? What are the processes, if you can, within a minute?
Okay. What I know is that where I grew up, I mentioned earlier, leaders are identified at a very early stage and groomed. In Nigeria, if you're a young person and you're showing leadership skills and potential and capacity, everybody will attack you to knock you down. That's what's going on here. So we must have a way of identifying leaders at every level, assisting them, grooming them to be able to lead us. Because if we do that, then we'll get the right leadership. The problem we have in Nigeria is that everything will have here. Leadership will have here. Everything is everything. You know, you enter the position, then you make more money from there. Let us get rid of this mentality, because if a system works, all of us will benefit.
Thank you so much, Chief Ben Etiaba. We honestly appreciate your input on this, and I want to believe that everyone out there has also learned so much beyond one or two about how to move beyond from where we are to where we are supposed to be. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much. I'm really delighted.